What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Highly Optimized Podcast. And today, oh man, you guys are in for a real treat. I'm sitting down with two guys whose mission, energy, and devotion to the plant immediately had me hooked the moment we met. Danny and Ty, the founders of a company called Grind with Gratitude. Now, if you know anything about Highly Optimized, you know I am all about intentionality, quality, and creating experiences that elevate the human spirit. And as soon as I explored their brand, it was obvious these brothers are cut from the same cloth. Their entire ethos is about bringing people together, raising vibration, and doing it with products that actually support your mind, body, and soul. And listen, when I tried their cannabis beverages for the first time, I was blown away. These aren't just cannabis-infused drinks. These are legit, high-quality, beautifully crafted experiences within a can. They work incredibly well, they taste amazing, and they're made with ingredients you can feel good about putting into your body. But what really sealed it for me was their backstory. The way this business came to life, the intention behind every decision, the mission they're on. It's powerful, inspiring, and something I know you're going to connect with deeply. So buckle up, dive in, and make sure you listen all the way to the end because Danny and Ty are hooking up the entire Highly Optimized audience with an amazing discount that you're definitely going to want to take advantage of. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode with the founders of Grind with Gratitude, Danny and Ty. Danny and Ty, man, am I excited to be here with you guys today. You know, as I said in the intro for everyone tuning in, I met Ty through the Instagram world. And it's really funny because, you know, I might talk a lot of shit about social media at times, but it does still add to amazing connections like you guys. And I was super excited to dive in with you guys because, you know, again, we just had a lot of stuff happen in the hemp market and also the cannabis world too, but we'll kind of talk more about hemp for what you guys are doing. But you know, again, we just had this whole bill passed that, you know, people are fear mongering over and saying, oh my goodness, it's going to destroy the hemp market. And who knows, maybe it will. I don't know. But we're going to dive into all that stuff today. But before we dive into all those juicy details, I want to figure out how you guys got started, how Grind with Gratitude came to be. Tell me everything because I am so excited to hear it.
That's awesome, Ryan. Yeah, we're super excited. Again, Danny here with my partner, Tyler. We founded this company almost exactly a year ago. Yep. I think it was about exactly a year ago. The two of us were in a U-Haul truck in the mountains of Georgia and South Carolina, North Carolina, hauling our first batch of our THC seltzers as fast as we could back to our hometown in Wilmington, North Carolina, because we had to get on a plane to fly to LA because we were featured in a conference called BevNet. It's one of the biggest beverage industry get-togethers in the country, and we got chose to present as a new brand. And so we are driving, literally as two entrepreneurs, driving a U-Haul truck with our first load of drinks to hop on a plane to the West Coast to go and present on the stage where, you know, the likes of what do we have out
Liquid
there?
Death, Olipop.
Big names, yeah. Right? Like awesome brands. Didn't win, but again, we made it through the first phase and was runner-up. So it was 2024 when we got a call because we also own restaurants, and our alcohol distributor said, "Man, have you guys heard of these THC beverages?" And Ty and I said, "No, I'm not a huge cannabis user. I enjoy it." Ty,
I'm a cannabis guy, and you know, I have heard of these drinks before, but like in my mind, I'm thinking THC drink. I'm thinking of like a sketchy smoke shop that's like a weird drink. Yep. Right. So I'm like, yeah, they don't really work or they make you feel weird. So I wasn't really, I was like, I'd rather just smoke it, you know, but then we went to Total Wine and we stood in the aisle kind of with our jaw dropped, just looking at all the different options. Like, what the heck is this? And we stood there and we watched all these different people come into the aisle from, you know, 25-year-olds to 85-year-olds. Yep. And loading up on these things, and everybody stood there with the same blank expression on their face, like, where do I even begin? So we bought like 20 different brands,
at least,
and we tasted through them. And as I'm drinking them, I'm saying the whole time, I'm like, guys, this is nothing. Like, I'll drink it. And I'm drinking. I'm like, holy smokes, I actually feel pretty good. Like, this is kind of legit. But none of them really tasted good. Out of the 20 that we tried, I think maybe 3 were like, yeah, okay, like I would maybe drink this. Yep. So we definitely saw that these drinks were real and that there was an opportunity to come to market with something that actually tasted really good. So that's kind of when we got to work. And this was the time when we were already accepted into BevNet to present as a new beverage brand. but we didn't have a product yet. So like Danny said, we were driving through the Southeast, getting our cans and our first batch and all that. And I think we got it within 2 days before the BevNet conference. So we went with, we did have a product, but we had zero sales. So a true kind of grassroots story starting just about like 1 year ago. Exactly.
Wow. That's so epic, guys. I talk all the time on this show about how, when you have a dream, you just got to go for it. And also finding ways to decouple the market. Like you guys are right. There's a lot of options out there when it comes to things you guys do. But, and this is a big but, it's almost like none of them that were created by someone that actually was passionate around cannabis and passionate around like, hey, we can have a drink that actually tastes good, And this is like what Olipop did in the prebiotic soda department.
Exactly.
They came out and they really knew their market, and they knew like, hey, we know all these health people wish they could just have a Coca-Cola or any of these things. So why don't we decouple and meet them where they're at? And that's what I love about you guys is that, you're doing something that is going to fit a very specific demographic, which is people that are actually concerned with what they're putting in their bodies. They want to feel good. They want to have access to clean medicine, and they want it in a really easily delivery system. And that's what the drinks are. They're so fun. The drinks are absolutely amazing. When I worked at the dispensary that I worked at way back in like 2016, we were the first company to ever come out with a THC drink on the legal market. And it was called Vibe. And there was 4 different flavors. I think it was like Relax, Uplift, Energy, Boost was one of them. But they tasted pretty gross, But again, they were such novel things at that time that people just bought them regardless. But, I'm so excited to try your guys' stuff because, I know what you guys have shared with me about how you create these. Obviously, I just heard the story of how this was really inceptualized. And, one of the things that I feel really cool about is the fact that you guys are showing like, hey, when you go out there and you create something from scratch, there are going to be trials and tribulations, right? You guys get accepted to this thing, huge opportunity. And you're like, oh my God, is the product going to come in time? I imagine that time was pretty stressful. You're like, hey, what are we ever going to
driving through the whole Southeast, man?
Yeah. And as stressful as those times can be, I almost feel like I never feel more alive than when I'm in the pocket like that. Like I just did a big push for a podcast I went on down in Austin. It was the same thing. Like 2 weeks before, I just had to get locked in. And those times were actually really exciting. And so I tell everyone, and, hopefully you guys listening can listen to this too, that it's not always going to be easy when you do your own thing. But it's also not going to be easy when you choose to be a pawn in someone else's system too. It's kind of like the idea of being healthy is hard, being unhealthy is hard. Just choose your hard. And you guys have chosen your hard based off something that actually matters to you, which is fucking awesome.
You're right on, man.
Oh, yeah. And it only gets harder, right? Like, we thought getting the product there would be the hardest challenge we had. Then come January, we figured out, well, shit, we got all this product. How the hell are we going to sell it now?
Yeah.
And then we start selling it, and then it's, well,
we don't have enough product. We're selling too much of it. To get more made, we need more money, right?
Yep. The classic rigmarole.
Yeah, but we love it. And your point earlier about, it's about having an opportunity to just have options, right? Yeah. We've all enjoyed alcohol, but none of us have really enjoyed the next morning.
Yes.
Again, a light user. I remember us throwing our launch party, and I put these down like they were, White Claws. I was like, let's go. And I'm partying, and I was high out of my mind. It literally would have been the equivalent if I just decided to just chug a fifth of bourbon, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm out of my mind. Great time at the party. Go to bed, high as can be. Next morning, 5 a.m., I'm at the gym. And I'm in my 40s now. Had that been alcohol, it would have been a 3-day recovery process, right?
Oh,
and that's
definitely
awesome about having the option. This, to alcohol is the health benefits are they're there, right? It's if you try them, and that's what happens. People come in and we give a free sample. They get the best night of sleep they've ever had. They get a nice social buzz. Half the calories, so all the health benefits are there. But then most importantly, the next morning, you still feel great. Like now I understand why it's called Cali Sober. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a real thing, right? Like on the West Coast, they're always years ahead of us, right? And hey, forget the alcohol because, we want to party at night, but we got shit to do the next morning. And that's really what drove us to this product and to this market segment and what we're so excited about.
I mean, I think that's really cool because, again, like the market that you're really going after is people that have something to live for. They have something to wake up for. They're passionate. And yes, they may need some down regulation, which is what's so great about these drinks. Like you were saying, Danny, like, when people drink alcohol, it can wreak havoc on your system. And I'm not here to play good or bad, whatever. People can choose their own decisions. And that being said, as someone who has a business called Highly Optimized, I found out very early in my life that not only was alcohol very detrimental, but it really wasn't even that fun when I really looked at everything going on. Like, sure, going to clubs, whatever, that part can be fun. Alcohol was just kind of the side effect of going into those places. And I never really enjoyed it. And the thing too is that when we look at like what cannabis is actually doing, it's working on our endocannabinoid system, which is the largest regulatory system in our bodies. And so it controls our sleep, our appetite, our nervous system regulation, our, arousal. I mean, so many of the things that are like basic human needs for, human beings in terms of what they want to feel, how their life wants to go, et cetera, directly interplays with the endocannabinoid system. So when you're connecting with something, aka a medicine that allows your nervous system and all this regulatory system to be satiated, no wonder you wake up feeling great. One of my favorite things to explain to newer people to cannabis is because they're used to alcohol and pharmaceuticals. They're like, okay, Ryan, all this sounds great, but what are the side effects? And I'm like, oh, the side effect is if you do too much, you'll have the best night's sleep of your life. You may heal some childhood trauma by accident. And, you're going to feel more connected to yourself and everything around you. Like that's the worst case scenario with this stuff. As long as it's grown in the organic way, as long as you're not getting some crazy synthetic stuff from a gas station, that's the worst thing that can happen. And so again, at the end of the day, this is why one of the many reasons I'm such a big proponent of going out there and talking about the health benefits of cannabis, because it has been so demonized and marginalized for so long that so many people still think of it as this, challenge or this drug and et cetera. But, the history shows we've been co-evolving with this plant for over 10,000 years. So it's nothing new. It might be put in new forms like a drink or whatever, but it's nothing new. I mean, they had bong in India 10,000 years ago, or at least 7,000 years ago. So it's really not new.
Yeah, that's what's frustrating about this new bill trying to ban these products. It's like there really are no bad side effects, and the health benefits are through the roof, especially when you're comparing it to alcohol. But like you said, as long as you're not getting some sketchy emulsion that's in these drinks, right? And that's why we do think that there needs to be some sort of regulation versus prohibition.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? There are a lot of bad actors out there. There are a lot of sketchy companies out there, people marketing to kids, or even starts to get a little weird with the Delta 8 stuff.
Yeah.
So we do want rules and regulations. I think the whole hemp industry as a whole kind of needs to come together a little bit more, right? Because there's the drinks, there's the flowers, there's the edibles, there's the Delta 8, there's the Delta 9, right? There's all these different, and everybody's kind of fighting for their own position. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see how things fall into place, but we're definitely a proponent of some rules and regulations around these things, but to totally get rid of these drinks would be a shame.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. And I'd love if you guys could go in a little bit, because I'm sure the listeners, maybe you guys have heard, maybe not, but can you go over like a quick explanation of what this bill is kind of saying? And, again, like I haven't looked all too much into it. I've been told things from people. I mean, again, I don't work directly in hemp, so it hasn't affected me directly yet, but a lot of companies I know, like you guys. But if you guys could go over kind of like what just happened, that would be fantastic, just so the listeners have some context around like, wait, what are they talking about? Hemp might get banned? Again, you guys may know, but I just want to make sure that, I give you guys a good explanation, just in case you guys, unlike us three here, or, your whole world doesn't revolve around cannabis and hemp. If you guys don't know about it, then you have a full explanation.
Well, the first thing I'll say is, we have no interest in getting into the politics of it.
Yeah.
Right, left, whatever we want to be, we, awesome. We kind of fall in the middle, the purple area.
Yeah.
I think, both sides are kind of a little crazy, to be honest with you. But
agreed.
Kind of what happened here with hemp is what politics is all about. As you may have known, our government was shut down for the longest time. Again, not to get into politics of why, but they had to pass a bill to reopen our government. And for whatever reason, at the 11th hour, to introduce a bill for spending to fund our government, some politicians just backdoored, never even discussed, never had a conversation, language in there that said, we're going to go ahead and ban all hemp products that are intoxicating that we legalized in 2018 with the Farm Bill. So there was never any debate. There was never any formal vote on should we or should we not do this, right? Which kind of what we feel like, in politics, we take an issue, we debate it, and then we make a decision. Well, that's not what happened here. Our politicians, from everything we've been told, swayed heavily by the alcohol industry and their funding and their lobbyists, were encouraged to put language into the bill that said the sale of hemp, intoxicating hemp, could continue for one more year, but at that point it would be federally banned, which means, oddly enough, on Veterans Day, November 11th, 2026, as the language reads now, anybody who relies on CBD, THC, any other hemp products will no longer be able to sell them in the country.
And ironically, veterans are a big group that are, heavily relying on these products.
Like, what an alternative to not only alcohol, but a lot of our vets have issues with opioids too. And that was almost single-handedly the group down in Texas when they tried to ban these hemp products in Texas. It was the veterans who came together and said, hey, know this, that if you go through with this ban, then we're not going to be supporting your political party any longer. And that's when they said, well, oh shit, again, playing the politics of it, we better find a way to just regulate it versus prohibit it, right?
Yeah.
And so, yes, there's language right now that says, per the 2018 Farm Bill, these products are perfectly legal. Total Wine, largest alcohol retailer in the country, has really been a pioneer. And they've gone in and said, hey, the laws are the laws. So they are selling in, I believe, over 20 states now. So right now it's perfectly legal. Major retailers, Target, as we record today, is doing a pilot, and they are selling them in a dozen or so stores up in the Midwest. You have a Circle K, which is a very large, gas station, convenience store presence as well that is selling them. So we have large retailers across the country. So it's perfectly legal today. We can sell them on our website. We can ship them to your listeners right now. But as the language reads, in less than a year now, they will be banned, which is a shame, right? Like we all agree that, like we've said, we need some regulation, right? I don't want to be drinking, if I'm an alcohol drinker, I don't want to be drinking moonshine that I have no idea if it was distilled properly, right? So in alcohol, we have regulations that say, hey, we want to monitor the production of it. We want to monitor how it gets distributed and how it gets sold. But we don't just say, well, we did once, right? One time long ago, we made this same mistake and said, you know what, let's just ban it, right?
Yeah.
And that made the Kennedy family a lot of money. Right?
It did.
And that actually created NASCAR, right? Because they were all competing to see who were the fastest drivers, so we could drive alcohol, right? Like, and if we honestly think that we can just say, okay, well, we're just going to federally ban this product, that it's just going to go away on November 12th, it's just going to disappear, then shame on every politician and everybody for not learning from history, right? Yeah. We all know that when you ban something, all it does is go into the dark market, and then we see things like fentanyl and all these other things come into the market that just scare the crap out of us. So we are just huge fans of, like with alcohol, like with nicotine, yes, we need some regulation. We don't want the bad actors in there. We raise our hands and we jump and we shout loud, put regulation in place. That's what our government is for. I don't want to get just random meat from a store, right? I want to know that the FDA is, and the USDA, that they are monitoring what our farmers are doing. A story for another day of all the pesticides, et cetera, that goes in the But we are a country that lives off of regulation, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent. We live off of regulation. So why don't we just regulate this just like we do every other product that you would purchase in a grocery store? And so that's what we're trying to educate people on is, even if you're not a fan, we understand, right? But there's so many people who count on this for pain relief, for sleep relief, for all the other advantages, Ryan, that you talked about. This is not just a, hey, I want to go out and get high product. This has so many different health benefits that go along with it that we're just out there trying to educate people so that hopefully they can come on our side and help us put regulation in place versus just a ban. That's what we're fighting for.
It makes perfect sense. And, again, I'll do my best to not get in the soapbox here, but, it's like aren't politicians the same people that were on Jeffrey Epstein's list? And they're saying that they care about hemp. I mean, this thing actually happened before. So exactly what they did with this bill, they did when they originally made cannabis illegal back in the 30s. They basically invented this whole myth that they went to the law bodies overnight and basically said there was a new plant that no one had ever heard about called marijuana that Mexican men were coming over the border and raping white women with.
The white women, yeah.
Exactly, which is like the most racist shit ever. And they got it banned overnight. And in the morning, every doctor woke up and was like, wait a minute, they banned what? Because cannabis was a part of over 60% of all medications on the market at that time. And so the thing that I really want people to hear, which again, if you guys listen to my show, I guarantee you already believe this, but I was just talking about this when I went on Aubrey Marcus. It's like, how many times are we going to have these people show their true colors before we stop believing their lies? Like at the end of the day, right? In the Texas example, the myth was, hey, these products are going to endanger probably children because they always throw the kids out there. What about the children? It's like, I don't know. How are they doing with the opiate mills on every corner? They seem to be fine. So, but oh God, a natural plant. What's going to happen? But again, in Texas, they probably had some myth around like, oh, it's going to hurt the children. So they had a certain reason they were quote unquote doing it. Then the veterans come and say, we're not going to support you politically. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, you know what? Actually, that's fine. So it shows them what they were really like, what their real big thing is. They want the most supporters. And so probably what happened was they thought, hey, Texas, you know what? We'll probably get more supporters if we try to ban it, because they weren't aware. Probably like older people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, these politicians that should not be, they don't have a good view of the world anymore anyway. But they probably wrongly assumed, hey, more people in Texas will be happy with the ban than not the ban. But as soon as they found out, oh, actually, more people like it being legal, oh, we'll just be totally fine with it being legal. Because it's never been about fucking safety. It's never been about them caring about you. They're negatively polarized people. All they care about, they're narcissists. They only care about fear, domination, control, and money. And that's okay, right? We can just spot them and see what they are and then act accordingly. But if we don't learn to use discernment, then people will be rolling up their arms for experimental jabs and thinking that somehow the opiate mill called CVS or whatever on the corner is somehow less dangerous than a natural plant. I mean, it's actually pretty insane if you think about how exquisitely these people are programming people. Like, give credit where credit's due. They're very good at being Darth Vader, like they straight up are Darth Vader. And so at the end of the day, they've done a really good job at convincing people that synthetic versions are totally fine. Marinol, any of these things that they've been trying to patent with cannabis since the dawn of time. Something a lot of people might not know is the fact that right now, cannabis, I believe, is still scheduled Schedule 1. They've talked about moving it to Schedule 3, which I have a whole thing along that as well. But right now, they're essentially saying cannabis has no medicinal value. And at the same time, the same government that says that holds a patent on cannabis as a medicine. So that's what we're working with here, guys. Okay. And I recommend everyone go look that up. Be like, oh, is that true? Go look it up. They own a patent on cannabis as a neuroprotectant. And so the only reason they haven't legalized federally is, it's a couple things, but number one is they haven't been able to figure out a form of cannabis they can synthesize that works as good as the natural product, and they can't monetize and patent a natural plant. They have to make something with it to be able to do it, and they can't find anything that works as good. And then number two, which is my personal conspiracy theory here, is why would they want to legalize something for a couple of years and then re-illegalize it? Well, because people are going to break the law, because like you guys said, it's not just going to go away. You think a veteran that found and got over a 20-year opiate addiction because of hemp products is now going to go back to opiates? Fuck that. They're not. So now it gives the opportunity for them to arrest on statutory causes that get you put in jails that are run by private companies. And so you essentially become a legal slave in the system because you're quote unquote breaking a law where there's no victim. It's ridiculous. I could keep going on and on, but it's so insane.
Not a lot of common sense involved.
No, there's just really not. There's really not.
There's really not.
I've got a 15-year-old daughter, and it's that age where it's I'm starting to go to parties, and do I want to drink? And Daddy owns this company with the THC, and it's really what the advice I give her and I give everybody. Let's just sit down and have a conversation about it, right? Yeah. Two people sit down and say, let's have an honest conversation, because just turning your back and saying, oh, well, nothing's going to happen is how we find ourselves in bad problems, right? Mm-hmm. So you sit down and you have an honest conversation with somebody and say, hey, here are the pros and cons of this, and here's the pros and cons of this, and you got to make a decision, right? Because that's what life is about, right? And some of those decisions, have hard consequences. And I would still argue, would I prefer my 15-year-old daughter to go out and slam a bunch of alcohol drinks and lose some of her inhibition and some other items that leads to a lot of problems? Or would I rather go out and have her have a few of these THC drinks where what you said earlier about what's the worst case scenario going to happen? Yeah. There's not a doubt in my mind as a father which one I would rather have, right?
Definitely.
Now, we can all go back and say, hey, if you go talk to your doctor and say, hey, doc, what's the best alternative, alcohol or, hemp, THC, CBD, or nothing? We all know that, nothing is the best solution, right? But is that realistic?
Exactly.
Right? We're going to live in a world, right? Like, because it's these same politicians who say, well, it's all should be banned. And then you go back and look in their personal private lives and see what they're doing at, 9 p.m. on a Friday and Saturday night. It's kind of comical.
Yeah.
and so we just want to fight the fight that says, hey, let people have options, right? We can let people have options. I mean, at 18 years old, you can decide to go die for this country. But you can't make a decision if you should maybe have a hemp THC infused cocktail. I got a hard time with that.
It's so insane. Like, you almost have to be taking crazy pills to make any of this make sense. Like, I wonder, I'm like, because I know that people like you guys and I and the listeners, like, we do live in a bubble a little bit. Like, sometimes I'm like, wow, the world's really evolving because I surround myself with really amazing people. And then I go to like a Walmart and I'm like, maybe not as much as I thought. But, I have hope. Okay. But like, I wonder, because to me, this is so obvious that it's almost like embarrassing for the governmental body. Is like, guys, like, you're going to have to be, you used to be much better at lying than this. Like, this is starting to get comical. But I'm starting to wonder, like, how long before people just finally go, no? Like, one of the stats I heard recently that was really funny is I was listening to a podcast with Robert Edward Grant, and this was around the election, probably like October of last year. I was driving back from, I think, Virginia, actually. And I was listening to this podcast, and we were talking about decentralization and, the centralization versus decentralization. And they were talking about how in 2023, 50% of households just didn't pay income tax. And the issue was that because they didn't pay it, the IRS didn't have enough money to come after everyone. And I'm like, see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, when we start to realize that we actually hold all the power, and we just go, like, imagine if we could get 330 million people, or let's say even 100 million people, to say, oh, you're going to ban that? Cool. We're not going to go to any Walmarts. We're not going to use any banks. And we're not going to do any of your stuff until you legalize it again. Guarantee they'll find another. Actually, we just did a study and we realized it wasn't that unsafe. And, now we care about you again. It's like, no, they only care about money. And we have the money that we give them. So as long as we start to really think about where we're putting our dollars, the tide will change very quickly, because it's never been about health or them caring. It's all about money. So if we just accept that, and we realize that we actually are having the money that we pay them, and we just go, no, you're not doing what I want you to do, and you're supposed to work for me, not the other way around. That's, I think, what we can see change. Now, getting 100 million people, or even 100 people to all see eye to eye on something, that's a different, problem that I don't know the solution to yet, except for smoking a joint together, but dosing the entire water supply with MDMA or something. But you never know, I won't do that. But, in a perfect world. Yeah.
But, we've done it before. We've had marches in Washington about a lot of different things that we just didn't think socially or civically were right. And again, peaceful protesting, I think, is a huge part of what this whole country was built upon.
Definitely.
And something we have to use to our strength, just like you mentioned, and the biggest vote you can ever give is the vote you give with your wallet, right? Without a doubt. I mean, because this ban, and it'll start coming out, right? Like the best thing about the ban is that it's brought a lot of now some energy and some perspective on these drinks. Right?
There's a huge spotlight on THC since this ban has been announced.
So everyone's learning a little bit more about it, and now they're learning about, hey, this is going to affect hundreds of thousands of people's livelihoods and jobs, right? This is going to affect thousands and thousands of farmers who, again, the backbone of America is kind of the farmers in the auto industry, right? Powerful industries. And our farmers, with soy crops and everything going on, with China and that, they've really counted on hemp as a secondary kind of cash crop to help fill the holes. So now we're going to take that away from them as well. So there's just a lot of ripple effects that a lot of people don't realize of this hemp ban that are going to affect, the blue collar working Americans who are just, going forward with their livelihood that's now being taken away from them.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It really is. So the good news is we've got over a year to keep spreading awareness. There's an awesome site out there, savehempnow.com, that's just trying to collect, you just go in and put your name, city and state, so we can start, doing the peaceful protesting of showing their constituents, hey, look, all these people are in favor of finding a solution because prohibition is not a solution, right? It's pretty cool seeing everyone band together now and having the awareness and saying, hey, let's fight to have some legislation put in place, not to just prohibit the drinks from being used.
Definitely. Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. And you guys are totally right. Like, I'm in the same respect. Like, I like regulations to a certain degree because, again, it does create safety. At least that's the myth, right? Now, again, the great thing about what you guys do and, companies like Dragonfly Earth Medicine, for instance, is there are these like third-party governing or third-party registrations where if I find a cannabis supplier, let's say, I know it's different than hemp, but I'll say cannabis. But if I find a cannabis supplier that's Dragonfly Earth Medicine certified, well, now I know I can trust them because I know what Dragonfly Earth Medicine is. That's what the USDA or even the FDA is supposed to do, but we know they've been corrupted. But, I'm a big fan of those things because, again, it's kind of like leveraging know, like, and trust. It's like, hey, I might love Dragonfly Earth Medicine. So if I go to Montana, let's say, and I find a dispensary there, I don't even think they have them. But if I go there and they're like, hey, we're DEM Pure certified, I'm like, oh, cool, I'm good. Yep. So it allows that know, like, and trust to breed from one company to the other. And I think it's totally the way because, again, like, there are a lot of bad products out there. I mean, I had a friend, a past student down in Texas who went to a couple gas stations, bought some random products and did independent testing on them. And each one of them had methamphetamine in them. How insane is that? Fucking straight meth,
Exactly to our point. So you're talking about the Dragonfly brand or certification or whatever. So in our world for the drinks, the company called Vertosa, I don't know if you heard of them.
No, I haven't.
They're kind of our
I'll write it down.
Gold star industry standard, if you will. They have a Vertosa certified program because, a lot of these drinks from our competitors that don't use Vertosa, you might have a 10 milligram drink that comes in that specific can is a 3 milligram, or maybe it's a 16 milligram, right? So there's a variance based on that. So Vertosa is really doing a great job as leading the charge as, a gold standard in the industry.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad to hear glad to hear that's out there because, again, like, and I'd love to get into this part now too. Like, I'd love to figure out like what's in your guys' drink. Like, how do you make it? I also know that there's a lot of confusion in the hemp space around like THCA versus THC or Delta 9, Delta 8, which, again, I know these things are all synonymous, but I'd love to hear from you guys about how you make the drinks, what's in them, the care you take for them. And then, again, we can get into kind of like the confusing cannabinoid science thing after. I've explained it before on the show, but I think it bears repeating because, again, people see a lot of names out there. They think Delta 9 is different than THC when really they're all just kind of catch terms for each other. THCA may be different. It's the acid form of Delta 9, but, still there's a lot of confusion. So I'd love to hear kind of what's in your guys' drinks. And for all the listeners, I'm going to be getting these in very soon, and I am so excited. I've already checked out everything these guys put in them, and they are amazing. But I'd love to hear it right from your guys' mouths.
Well, to Tyler's point earlier, right? Like, number one is the emulsion we're using is a Vertosa verified, right? So you're not getting anything synthetic. This is coming from an American farm that they are going and they are processing the hemp plants. They are pulling the extract out of it. They are doing all the treatments, all the lab work, so that you are getting a pure, organic,
consistent
experience.
That's awesome.
Right? So first and foremost, like, that's the emulsion that we're putting into it. And then, back to our point earlier, when we tried the other 20 plus brands, right, we didn't want to drink. We kind of joke around that, the first ones we tasted, it was like the dirty bong water from like, it was, we drank them and we got high, but we were drinking, right? That taste just punched you right there with that bitterness. Right? being kind of in the restaurant world, we were like, you know what? Taste is kind of important to us. Like if you have a restaurant, your food just got to taste good.
Yeah.
We were like, all right, well, we got to taste good. But what was also important to us was we didn't want a lot of artificial flavorings and sweeteners and all those things, right? We really wanted to keep the health aspect in mind. So for us, we went with cane sugar.
Yeah.
Right. Like what Coca-Cola originally was, right? Like when you drink I kind of call it the Mexican style Coca-Cola, and it's the one that has like the cane sugar. It's just a great flavor. And so, it's a drink that has 40 calories because we put some cane sugar in there. So it has some sweetness, but, not to get into the health impacts of, different artificial sweeteners, but for us, it's really easy to understand cane sugar, right? And then again, it's just natural flavorings that we put in there. So no artificial flavoring, no dyes, nothing along those lines. It's just, a great drink with the best emulsion on the market that gives the best flavor and the best effect, right?
Weed water with a little sugar. That's it.
We find that's the best way. Like when you roll up a joint, you don't want to know that there's, 18 different ingredients in it. I mean, when you get out there and you read it, you can understand what everything is. And it's a simple, it's not a novel you're reading of ingredients. It's very simple. Again, going from Vertosa straight from the farm. And we've got some natural flavor and some natural sugar in it. And you get to have a great experience, whether it be at your house, at the bar, or wherever it is that you're looking to get high.
That's kick-ass. It's so cool, too, because, I actually have a really good buddy who's been on this podcast probably, I don't know, at least 3 times, but his name's Dr. Jason Ganzuk. And, he is probably he's who I trust in my health, put it that way. He's my doctor, but he trained with Paul Chek one-on-one for like almost 20 years now. And he's around my age, like 34. He was a motocrosser back in the day and got a lot of concussions. And so his dad got him working with Chek early in his life. But, again, like he is, the most exquisite and articulate and intelligent person I know when it comes to health. And one of the big things he's seen recently, and one of the things he started doing, which again, for him, I knew something had shifted in him when I saw this, is he had a story where he was drinking a Mexican Coca-Cola. And I was like, whoa, because I never thought I'd ever see him drink something like Coca-Cola, et cetera. So when I talked to him, I was like, hey, I saw that on your story. What's going on? He's like, dude, we've been lied to about sugar. He said, overall, sugar is natural sunlight, So again, it's crystallized sunlight rather. And so he said that it's not that sugar is bad necessarily. It's kind of like correlation doesn't equal causation. Like, yes, if you eat a lot of sugar, things can happen, but that's typically not because of sugar itself. It's because of downstream effects of, like, say, slow metabolism or why you're craving that much sugar from parasites or whatever. And so at the end of the day, having real natural sugar, think about this. Why is honey a superfood if sugar is not good at all? It doesn't make any sense. Why do people recommend eating fruit? Yeah. Exactly. And so, I love that you guys have not only sugar in there, but cane sugar. Because again, I could go find a cane sugar plant. I can't go find high fructose corn syrup plants, And so for me,
40 calories, but
exactly. And that's the thing is, like, we've been led to believe, again, how we do anything is how we do everything. If we've been led to believe all these things, we've been led to believe about hemp and cannabis from the governing bodies. It doesn't stop there. This whole idea of like, oh, you want low calories. It's like, yeah, but at what cost? Like, do I want something with low calories with high fructose corn syrup versus something with 40 calories and cane sugar? Like, no, you'd much rather have that. And, again, like this whole diet culture, there's so many facets that go into it, but you guys are definitely on the right side of history. And I'm super grateful to hear that. It makes sense why you have the name Grind with Gratitude, because again, when you drink drinks and things like that, and you intake products that are natural, that are as close to the earth as you possibly can, you feel the natural gratitude of your body being happy that you went with that selection. So it's so cool.
Of course. And while we love these seltzers, Ryan, what I'm going to tell you for people like yourself, Ty, this right here, all this smoke in a bottle.
The magic black bottle.
The magic black bottle. You want to get your hands on this thing.
You get one in the mail. Coming
yes.
This up and you dive into this magic black bottle, this smoke in a bottle. It is going to change your whole thought process on these things, right?
This black bottle slaps, man. This is the best. Like, these seltzers are 10 milligrams, and I could drink 10 plus of these, and I'm chilling. Right? I pour a little bit of this into our strawberry kiwi. This is like a lemonade taste, like a citrusy. It mixes well with anything.
Yeah.
I actually threw a shot of it in my energy drink this morning.
Oh, dope.
But yeah, you put a little bit of this into the strawberry kiwi, forget about it.
Dude, and what is that? Is it kind of like what hard liquor would be in the alcohol industry? Like, as I see the bottle, and kind of reminds me of like, oh, if I was going to buy hard liquor and things like that. So is it more concentrated? Like, tell me a little bit about it. I'm super excited to hear
Definitely
more about it.
Concentrated. Like if this is a White Claw, this is a bottle of vodka.
Yeah.
Right? If you take a shot of vodka versus drinking one White Claw, the bottle of vodka is probably going to be a little bit more stronger because it is more concentrated.
Definitely.
So it although it's 10 milligrams per serving, just like 10 milligrams per serving on the can, because it's more concentrated, this is definitely a lot stronger. So for high tolerance guys like myself, and I'm sure you, that black bottle's where it's at, man.
That is kick ass. Wow. I'm so glad that you guys have that too. I know you showed me it before we hit record and I forgot to ask about it because, again, like at the end of the day, for any of you guys out there that just want to mix this into whatever drink you have, maybe you like seltzers or you like, even water. I mean, if you want to, if you're doing some health kick and you only want to drink water, cool, you can throw it in there. You can throw it in, anything. Tea, I bet, would be amazing with it. That's really cool.
It's crazy. And then, Ryan, when you're going to the concert, the festivals, right, you got to have the little, you sneak it in, right? You put it in your bag, you put it in your pocket. We've flown across the country with these things.
Wow.
We've been to sports events, right? And again, we just want an alternative to alcohol. So to your point, we just have a bottle of water, right? Mm-hmm. We got our grind gratitude water. We just put that in there. We're feeling good. We're partying. We're having a great time.
Dude, that is kick ass. That is so kick ass. One thing I'm curious to ask you guys too is, and how do I want to ask this? It's kind of like, and I know you guys are going through Vertosa when they do this, but how are they like, because this is the main question I get when I ask people or tell people about hemp products. They're like, oh, I want to get high though. And I'm like, no, hemp products can get you high. How would you explain that to someone that is maybe like, but wait, I thought that, hemp is just CBD, right? And again, I know that isn't true, but how would you kind of talk to someone who maybe thinks that's true? Because maybe someone listening has a mom or a dad or a cousin or whatever that otherwise would be really helped by this stuff, but just is kind of like missing some parts, maybe has a gap to bridge. How would you explain that to someone who's like, wait a minute, I thought hemp was just CBD?
That's a great point. The first thing I'm going to say is go on the website, buy the bottle, right? Use the show name and you're going to get 50% off.
Yeah.
And if you don't get high, we will totally refund every dollar you spent. Because I'm telling you, this is smoking a bottle. I mean, that is our nickname for this thing, right? So hop on the website, grindwithgratitude.com, put the show name in there. You're going to get 50% off.
Dude.
We're going to ship it right to your front door. And if you call us, you email us and tell us I didn't get high, we're not going to believe you, but we'll still send you the money. Because this is it. I mean, this will take you to places that you're looking to go. It's a great time. It's a great buzz. But then, like we said when we started the show, the next morning you're ready to grind, right?
Yeah.
Like this is for the people who are out there, like yourself, Ryan, going after the podcast. You're just 2 weeks in Mexico, in Austin, you're back in Boston. When you're doing all that, alcohol takes a toll on your body, right? Like there's stress. It's a hard, right? And if you're looking for a little relief from that, that's what this is for. But then you go back to work the next day, right? So we are grinding, but then we believe gratitude is a very important part of life, right? Like it's not all work, no play. You need to have some play in your life, right? And this right here, this will get you high, right?
Yes.
No doubt about it. But not, again, the perfect alternative to alcohol because all those negative side effects, alcohol is a carcinogenic, everything else, the benefits you get from hemp, from CBD, from THC, that's what you're going to get in this bottle with a hell of a high. And we guarantee it. Buy it on the website, use the show name for 50% off. And if you don't get there, we'll give you every dollar back.
And we're so about that because we mentioned selling in Total Wine. Every Total Wine that we go into with this bottle, it becomes the number one selling item in the whole store. So not out of THC. Out of wine, beer, liquor, THC, beef jerky, everything that Total Wine sells, this is the number one seller everywhere we go.
Wow.
I
love that.
Our average customer, everyone thinks it's going to be the 20-year-old, new
dreadhead,
right?
Pothead.
My grandma,
Mm-hmm.
right, who says, I've been drinking alcohol for X years. I tried this because I lived in the 60s and 70s and I know a little bit about THC, right? And I've tried these and the buzz I get is what I'm looking for. But the night of sleep that I get and the way I feel the next morning, I haven't felt that since the 60s and 70s.
And back to the health benefits, people are talking about, right? They haven't slept this good. They're losing weight. Their skin's clearing up from not drinking alcohol and switching to this stuff. So, I mean, again, the health benefits are just through the roof, and so many people are counting on these products.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, again, like, cannabis and hemp, because again, really, they're really the same plant. The main distinction is just the amount of delta-9 THC in them. And that's something that people don't know a lot too, is they're really the same plant. They've just had this classification put on them due to the DEA's classification of what delta-9 THC is versus, THCA and things like that. But again, if we look at these, plants, they're also extremely beneficial for the gut biome as well. And so at the end of the day, like, if people are struggling with depression, anxiety, a lot of these things are gut issues before they're actually mental issues. And so that's why cannabis and hemp seem like a panacea, is they are working on the endocannabinoid system, which interplays with literally every facet of the human body, mind, and spirit. Not to mention the fact that, like I mentioned a little while ago, someone can accidentally just hop into healing childhood trauma, doing mindset work. I mean, what I do, and, I don't know if I've shared this with you guys yet, but what I have found is mixing coaching with cannabis is the most efficient way to get someone past what's holding them back, because the entire scope of their issues are stored in the part of their brain that actually isn't real, called the ego, of course. And so when we get behind that and we start to get into the subconscious, well, that's where the operating system actually exists. And so if I can get someone there in 5 minutes with cannabis versus 60 days of meditation, you better believe that opens up the ability for many more people to benefit from the psychological, the spiritual, the physical, I mean, all the health benefits that this plant has to offer. And I think that's just so amazing, because at the end of the day, if we look at just this country alone, let alone the world, we are aware that this country's on button is much bigger than its off button. And so most of us are very upregulated. We're chronically in fight or flight. We don't even know it because it's become so normalized, and most other people are there too. So we just think it's normal to get fast food. Like, why would we need fast food if there wasn't something else that was unconsciously said is more important, which is productivity, working, etc. So I think this fills in a really good gap where, like you said earlier, Danny, like, yeah, perfect world. If it was a perfect world, people wouldn't need anything. That would be amazing. But we don't live in a perfect world. And that's just the hard truth of it. And so really the whole conversation then becomes, how can we practice harm reduction effectively to make sure that when people go to something that they want relaxation from, that they're doing the least harm? And isn't that the creative medicine, right? Do no harm. But yet at the end of the day, we're in a system that we've already talked about is completely ass backwards. So I think this is amazing because, again, it's meeting people where they're at. I mean, even your seltzers, the bottle you have there, they remind someone, like you were talking about with the grandmother, hey, this looks like the thing that I'm used to. So I'm more open to entertain it versus, we know that inhalation methods are, by far like the largest, ingestion method in the cannabis and hemp industry. But that being said, they're not the only one, and they're also not really the healthiest one. I mean, ingesting cannabis versus inhaling it is definitely healthier. And I think at the end of the day, the more we can make products that resonate with what people are already used to, a lot of guys, when they get home from work, they're popping a beer, not just because of the beer itself inside, but the can, the way the pop, cracks, everything like that.
Right?
Exactly. All those habitual parts. And so again, it's kind of like if someone's trying to stop smoking cigarettes, they might get off with cannabis because the joint feels like a cigarette. And so it matches a lot of the things they're used to. This is a great stepping stone. And for me, that's exactly why they're being outlawed right now. Is again, not because of health or whatever, but because the alcohol industry is realizing, and I've heard this stat recently, especially younger people, like, millennials, I'm millennial, but Gen Z especially is just not drinking. Why? Because again, mushrooms and cannabis and MDMA, so much more fun. I remember the first time I ever tried MDMA and, I had heard all these things about, oh my God, the depression after, and I woke up the next day, like, I might be a little tired because I stayed up till 6 a.m., but I'm like, I can have that much fun and wake up feeling like this. What have I been doing with alcohol? I feel like such an idiot. And again, when it comes to cannabis, that is by far the thing that you can do the most of and wake up feeling the best after. And I think that I think with, people having a lot of addictive tendencies in reality right now, What better thing to get them to break that than something that they really can't go overboard with? Like if you drank that entire bottle, yeah, you'd probably go through an uncomfortable experience. It might not be enjoyable, but you'd wake up after, you'd be alive. You drink an entire bottle of Jack, good luck, and that's available in stores. Literally, I could throw a fucking coin and hit 3 alcohol stores from my house right now. And that's already what's out there.
I had, Ryan, with my 15-year-old daughter, right?
Yep.
Because that's the difference, right? If we can't live in fantasy and think, well, our kids are never going to do anything wrong, right? I don't know that I want my kids not to ever do anything wrong.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you learn.
Childhood and growing up. But
yeah.
Your comment earlier about harm management, I love. I've never heard it said that way, right? But do I want my daughter taking too much of this or too much of a bourbon or vodka? It's not even close. It's not even a conversation. It's not even 100%. A conversation, right? But again, too many times you follow the money, and it's the money that is driving the decisions by the politicians and not the common sense.
Mm-hmm. And it's the pattern we see over and over again. And that's why, once again, it's how many times do we have to have these people tell us exactly who they are? I mean, really, this is how they avoid karma. They literally tell us exactly who they are, but they distract us with shiny objects, so we don't really pay attention. We stay in chronically fight or flight, all the things that, I've already been mentioned. But, at the end of the day, I've seen cannabis and hemp cure people's cancer. I've seen it give people with Crohn's a whole new lease on life. I've seen it with people with glaucoma, arthritis, fibromyalgia. I mean, I've seen these things with my own 2 eyes. And like you guys were talking about, I think the most ridiculous thing is that a veteran, especially one that has seen active combat and is a fucking war hero, sacrificed a lot of their body, they're in pain, all these things. And all they're asking for is, hey, give me something that's going to actually make me feel better, not bitter and not worse. And we're literally, nope, sorry, thanks for the sacrifice. But a bunch of guys in suits that have never smoked weed are going to make all these laws around it. It's literally insane.
It's insane. I know disabled vets that they're getting tramadol in the mail, for free from the VA, If you ask me, the VA should be sending these out to the veterans instead.
100%. And what a great opportunity for you guys as well. Because again, if we all banded together, we could be like, hey, why don't we set aside part of our business to give for free to veterans? Cool. I'd be down with that as a grower. I'm totally down with that, because again, that's what cannabis culture is all about. It's about real human culture. It reflects what real humans are meant to do, which is, hey, we're all so much more alike than we are different. Who cares what the color of our skin is? Who cares what gender we are? These things are just thirst traps. We're all human beings here. Well, I mean, there might be some lizards in politics, but that's a conversation for a different day. But we are all humans, okay? And so at the end of the day, we're all supposed to be helping each other. That's when we feel the best in life. When we get to see our products reach someone and give them a new lease on life, there is no better high in the world than that. And it's so simple, right? Even if we don't have any resources, we can hold the door for someone. We can smile at someone. There are a reason that these things are so baked into society, is because they feel the best. And that's what, that's why I got into the cannabis world when I first got into it, because I found community there. I found that people were really willing to help each other out. People were so gracious to be like, oh, you don't have anything, hopping on this blunt. It's okay, man. And that to me was exactly what I wanted more of in life. And I'm so grateful to meet people like you guys that are doing this work, that are out there in integrity, sharing what, these products are, sharing them with people, helping people. Because again, at the end of the day, we already know the government's not doing it. So we're stepping in to do it in place of them not fucking listening. We have an opiate epidemic happening right now. And it's almost like some people are still like, well, we just got to see what the results are. It's like, guys, we've seen what the results are, right? We've already gone down this road a million different ways. It always ends at the same conclusion. But with hemp and cannabis, all they've gotten is a bad rep when it comes to, oh, people get lazy. It's like, no, people were lazy and then they used something and became lazier because they were already lazy. These things that people attribute to this plant they have nothing to do with the plant. It's deeper issues that people don't want to deal with because it's much easier to just play the blame game. It's the same reason people would say, he or she made me so mad, because when they don't accept the fact that they made themselves mad and now they're projecting onto that person to get rid of their own unconscious guilt, it feels better when you're a kid to do that. But as you start to actually become an adult, not just chronologically, but actually in your psyche, you realize that every time you do that, you give your power away. And so again, like this is the big shift in society that I really want to happen, is more people taking accountability for their actions and more people finding avenues of things like you guys do with Grind with Gratitude to be able to support them in that evolution physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually.
Love it.
Amen.
It's been a great time, Ryan. It's been awesome.
It's been amazing, guys. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I want to make sure, I know people already know the name, but where can they find these products? grindwithgratitude.com, I think is it. And then you said the name of the podcast. We'll give a discount. Please share with people can connect with you and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, highly optimized. Put it in as a code on the website. You'll get 50% off of anything you see on the website.
Hell yes. I love this. And, you know, guys, I'm so grateful to meet you because what I'm looking to do is put together I don't know what a conscious term for army is, but I'm going to say army for sake of a better term. But, you know, an army of people that are doing the right thing, because for me, people reach out to me a lot and they're like, hey, where can I get really high quality products? And for me, I teach how to grow. I do all this stuff, but I'm not in the product industry. So it's a perfect rendition of being like, hey, go over here. You know, this is the people that are doing amazing stuff. And the only company I work with only does flower. So it's great because now, you know, again, I might even be able to connect you guys together to do some really cool collab work. Because you guys are not offering flour, they're not offering edibles. You know, it might be a great way to kind of, you know, strengthen both people's company. But I'm really grateful you guys came on. You know, I have one last question that I love to ask everyone that comes on the show, and you guys can answer this individually or collectively, whatever you'd rather do. But let's say someone listens to this show and they're really excited to get out there and highly optimize their life starting today. What is the one piece of wisdom you guys would leave them with to be able to go out and start doing that today?
So I think that's pretty awesome. On every one of our drinks, there's a quote on there. And Ty and I usually get pretty emotional about this, but it's the man in the arena. And I'm just going to take a quick moment. I'm just going to read it for everyone to understand, right? And this is just a quick summary of it. But it's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done it better. The credit belongs to the person who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred with blood, sweat, and dust, who, at the best, in the end, there's a triumph of high achievement, and who, at worst, if they fail daring greatly. Right?
Wow.
That's on every one of our cans.
Every can. Because that's what it means.
Chills.
Right? You got to step into the arena, right? So many people dictate what you do with your life. You go to a job you hate. You do things you don't like, but you have dreams, you have aspirations. And sometimes you got to step out a little bit, right? And I was one who was much more on the alcohol side than this. I stepped into the arena, right? And I still enjoy 80% of THC users still use alcohol. It's not an either or, right? We just encourage people to give it a try, right? Give it a try. It's gonna change your world, right? But step into the arena. Don't worry about all the critics, all what people. And it's easy to say, but very hard to do, especially in a social media world, right? Where we're comparing a click. We're comparing a comment and a picture, but step into the arena, right? Like that's our advice to people is go after it. Try something new. And you know what?
Go for it. Chase your dreams. That's what this whole company was built on, right? Our logo is a legit arena, right?
Yes.
And you have to grind with gratitude in that arena if you want to be successful.
And we're talking about entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, like the single mom, right? This is not go step in the arena and be a corporate executive. This is go fulfill your dreams, right? Like go live the grind, right? And so many people think the grind means working 100 hours for somebody else. No, it means working for yourself and taking a risk. Ryan, we could talk about this for another hour.
Yeah, right.
We don't want to, but that's what we want to leave the listeners with is step into the arena, right? Don't worry about the critics because those are the ones who hold us back from going out and achieving some great shit.
Grinders in the arena, critics in the crowd.
There we go.
Yes. I always say, I'm like, guys, you know, they're commenting on your dream. You're living your dream. You are not the same, you know? And that is, I mean, probably the most perfect wisdom that you could have possibly said on this show, because that's everything I'm about. It's like, listen, I know it's scary, but choose your heart. Okay. Both things are hard. Just choose your heart and just stick with it. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, thank you so much for checking out the show. Make sure you go check out the show notes. I'll have all their details in there. grindwithgratitude.com. Highly Optimized gives you 50% off on anything on the website. You know, if there's one thing I can say about these guys, just having met them recently, it's that even though they've already done so much, they're barely getting started. And I'm really excited to continue watching their journey and continuing to see how this whole hemp bill, you know, continues to evolve and everything. Make sure you go to, what was that website?
SaveHempNow.com.
SaveHempNow.com, guys. Your voice matters. Go on there and let people know, no, this is not what I'm paying you guys taxes to do. If you're still paying taxes, this is not what I'm paying taxes to do. This is what I want, because your voice is so powerful. So thank you guys. If you loved the show, go give it a 5-star review. It helps us out so much. And until next time, may the source be with you to infinity and beyond. Peace for now.